Jason, thanks for stopping in today to check out my latest video. And to follow on from the last video, I was talking about this issue of Australian car model back from 1987, and I had another bit of a look at it, and I was wondering again what month it was. So it was the issue from April-May, which means I wasn't 14 when I bought this, I was actually 13. So look, I don't know whether it was because there was a young girl on the cover, you know, having her legs out on a sitting on an old tree or whatever, but it was absolutely definitely something more to do with these red Mini Mustangs in this photo. And I had lost this magazine over the years, so I found this one on eBay for only a few dollars, and so I thought, you know what, I should just buy it and have another look for it. And I thought, what is the deal with these Mini Mustangs on the cover of this magazine, and is there a review? No, there's no review at all. They're actually looking on the inside of this magazine. It says here in the cover note, pretty Joanne Cowan shows off the 2 PB Mini Mustangs used at the Australian Championships by PB Australia. Joanne is holding the car that Andrew Reid drove to the top qualifying spot. Joanne is employed by an Adelaide bank and enjoys horse riding. Okay, and obviously part-time modelling with vintage RC cars. So anyhow, getting back to these Mini Mustangs, so they are clearly both Mini Mustangs, but this one here is wearing the standard original Mini Mustang body, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was called the Stiletto. I'm not certain, but this body here, I thought because they were painted the same or very similar that they had to have been the same car, but it was a different angle. But what it actually worked out to be is this body here, which is known as ugly as sin. I don't know, I reckon it really is, but I really wanted to get back to the PBs and the Mini Mustang in particular in this video, because I touched on it in the last video, and I wanted to get into a bit of a cool story. So story time at True Vintage RC, and want to explain what this car here is doing in front of me and how it is in relation to the cars that I have, and a little bit of a story behind it. So this particular car I've had for about maybe 15 years. It's had a new body. I've made some parts for it. It's had some rebuilds over time. But I wanted to get to why I had an interest enough to get one in the first place. So okay, let's back up a second here. So post 2000, I had stopped racing RC cars for a number of years because I came of age and I turned 18, got a car license, you know, could legally drink and go out and have some fun, and was chasing girls and all that sort of stuff. That's what boys do at that age. And I put the toy cars away. So post 2000, you know, I had a little bit of interest in potentially not even really racing, but just getting a car and going to the track and just having a bit of fun. So on occasion, every year or a couple of years, I would go to a track somewhere and pull out some of my old cars from my Bormac days, and I would, you know, just have a bit of a rag around and just for shits and giggles, really. But so fast forward, I was living up on the Gold Coast, and I was working in an RC hobby shop for a while, and a buddy of mine who worked there, you know, him and I raced indoors for a while. There was an indoor cup track up at Bundle, PCYC, and we used to race there on a Thursday evening. And you know, that was the last of the sort of racing I had, and it was just for fun. I didn't take it seriously at all. I don't even think there was transponders involved at all. I can't even remember. I think it was just clickers maybe still back then. But anyhow, fast forward, my buddy was going overseas and he needed some extra money, and he still had some cars left over from his old race days, and he had a Team Loshi XX, he had a Cougar 2 team car, and he had a long wheelbase mid, and some other bits and pieces. And you know, in fact, his old pit toolboxes, he had a couple of pit toolboxes I still use now as my pit toolboxes. And anyhow, he said, look, I want to sell these things, and you know, do you want to buy them off me? And I'm like, mate, they're just crappy and old RC cars. What do I want with them? You know, I've got no interest, and I wasn't doing RC back then either. And he said, oh, but I could really use the money, and you know, he thought I was cashed up because I'm in the building trade, and you know, anyway, I ended up just buying them off him because just to shut him up, really. so I bought them off him, and you know, I took them home and basically chucked them in the corner of the garage. But my maybe a couple of months later, my flatmate had said to me, "Hey, what's going on with those RC cars you've got sitting in that box?" And I said, "I don't know. Maybe I should pull them out and charge them up and give them a bit of run around." So I had been reading about the Shoemaker Cougar 2 in RC car magazines, because I buy the odd magazine here and there over the years and just have a bit of a flick through, and never really get to see one go. So I thought to myself, I'm going to build up a Shoemaker Cougar 2 and just have a bit of a run around in the yard and whatever. So got it set up and took it out for a run, and within minutes I'd clipped the front concrete letterbox mount and snapped off one of the front suspension arms. I went, oh, great. So Shoemaker Cougar 2 front suspension arm, I'll never find one of those things. But so yeah, I went back in the garage, chucked it in the corner, and just forgot about it. But then at some point, I thought, you know what, I should see if I can find a suspension arm from somewhere. And I wasn't very familiar with eBay back then. But someone said, hey, you know, I went to a hobby shop and said, hey, where would I find these parts? I said, mate, they're long out of production and we don't sell that stuff anymore. And mind you, it's probably like 10 years later since it was released. But so I jumped on eBay and looked up Shoemaker Cougar 2 parts, and wouldn't you believe it, this guy had some Shoemaker parts here in Australia. And I was like, wow, okay. Contacted the seller, and I said, hey, mate, you wouldn't have any Shoemaker Cougar 2 front suspension arms, will you? And he said, yeah, I've got a pair new in packet. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I just thought, what do you mean new in packet? Like, these things are long out of production. And he said, oh no, I've got some Shoemaker parts. And I was like, well, okay. And the seller happened to be Alex, Mr. Incredible Serious. And, you know, we were just comparing notes. And yeah, like, he told me about RC Tech and the online forums. So I checked out Tamiya Club and RC 10 Talk and RC Tech, and then it went to Oople, the Oople forum, and then there was even a forum on the Shoemaker website. So that's how it was. So there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, and there was no real social media. Back then, I think there might have been MySpace. So MySpace was around, and things were very, very humble beginnings in that regard for RC, because the only real outlet we had was to jump on forums and you could talk about specific makes of cars you had, or the country you race in, or the club you race at, all that sort of stuff. So that's how it was back then. So there was no Facebook or YouTube. And so anyhow, over a period of time, it was organised to have a vintage meeting down in Melbourne. So there had already been a 25th anniversary club meeting in Sydney at the North Ryde Club. So they had a 25th year anniversary, and it was both a modern class and vintage classes organised into one day. And a handful of us guys went along to that, and it had rained the night before, and we thought it was no good. It was just going to be washed out the next day, but we managed to run the next day in the mud, and a lot of fun was had. So, and anyway, later on that year, so it would have been around about November, so 2000 November, I think those dates are close to it, they had a vintage enduro at the Knox Club. So the Knox Vintage Bash that is starting next week is the same club where they had this 2-hour vintage enduro. And anyhow, I flew down from the Gold Coast to Melbourne, and as it turns out, Alex was good enough to pick me up from the airport, and him and his wife basically put me up at his place. So we get to his place, and you know, like, Alex is this incredibly kind guy who's there's no rhyme or reason to what he does. he tends to buy up maybe job lots off eBay or forums, or maybe even on Facebook user groups now, and marketplace and what have you, and he just gets what he gets, right? So it might be he might want some stuff in those lots, but he just collates and collects all this other crap. And I was like a kid on Christmas morning, like I'm just going through these boxes and these drawers and finding all this cool stuff, and just really obscure things sometimes, like, oh, I could really use that, or I could use this. And anyhow, we managed to come across while I was there, he had some Mini Mustang stuff, and and I hadn't actually seen a Mini Mustang in person since the 80s when I used to race at Bormac, and I was just so captivated by it. And I just thought to myself, wow, I really want to get one of these cars going. Now, we weren't even running, or he wasn't even intending to run a Mini Mustang at that meeting, and neither did he, because I think he was running a Shoemaker Storm truck at the time. But I really pressured him. I said, come on, Alex, let's get this Mini Mustang up and going. And I don't remember the state it was to get it going, but I remember it needed a lot of work, and it probably needed some electronics put in it. And so over the space of the day, we had some beers and cooked some shit and whatever, guys just being dudes, right? And so, yeah, we're drinking beers, and we put this Mini Mustang together, and just going over, just looking at this thing, and I've got some good memories of, we had, I can't even remember now, actually. I can't remember precisely how many chassis he had, but I remember maybe we picked up the best one, and maybe had some different bodies, I'm not sure, but he had this one particular body, and I don't know where it came from, and we've had this long-standing joke forever that he must be painting his bodies in white house paint. It's been going back and forward for many, many years, and but someone had actually cut the windows out of the Mini Mustang, and it actually sprayed the outside of the body this terrible, terrible white. And I've got some photos I'll link up in this video, and so you can see for yourself. But it had obviously the aesthetic shape of it, and that was enough for me. I just wanted to take the car out there and have a bit of a run with it, and just experience it and see it actually running, because I thought, wow, these things are so archaic. Who would ever get one of these things going ever again? Well, we did. And so we had a bit of a practice out the front in the street, and we got it up and working. And let me tell you, that car was an absolute piece of crap. It was not in any way going to win any races or do any good. But, I don't even think it had shock oil in it. And it had some old, maybe tartan cat spike copy tyres. They were half worn down, they were hard, they were plastic, but you know what? The thing skated around. It was so cool. Just to actually see one motoring around, it was a lot of fun. And so I think it might have been the first day we went to the track for practice, and like that car was just something else to see. And it's still to this day some of my best memories of just seeing that car run around, because it really just took you back to the earliest beginnings of vintage RC for me in racing in the 80s at Bormac, because that was a car, or one of the cars I used to see going around the track. And I was running a Kyosho Optima back then. But yes, someone was running a Mini Mustang. And I just thought, wow, I'm actually getting a chance to relive this many, many years later. So anyhow, Alex is, driving this car around the track, and, we're all giggling like little schoolboys watching it go around. And, well, I am. I don't know about Alex, but I was. And so unfortunately, the car was, it was skating around, like it had no grip at all, those tyres. They were just spinning, and the car was just sliding around in the dirt. It was terrible in all the right ways. It was fun. And unfortunately, the Mini Mustang by design obviously has this fiberglass chassis plate here, but at the back of the chassis here, I've actually got modified all my Mini Mustangs to carry this little bash plate. And the reason for that is, at the very, very back of the chassis spine here, Alex, and this is an interesting fact also about vintage racing, and just taking your car to drive it and working out its weaknesses, right? So off the jump, you know, the car would come high or whatever, and it would come down. And I think he was running one ways in the front, so you couldn't exactly lock up the brake and bring the front down. So it was coming off the jumps and landing on the back, and when the suspension was compressed, and then it was landing on this very, very back corner of the spine here, and tragedy struck, and it ripped out the entire back of the spine. It caught on the I don't know if it was carpet or it was Astro or what it was back then, but yeah, anyway, it ripped out the entire back of the spine, and the chassis spine was ruined. That's it. It was done. There's no more. The car was stuffed. It was kaput. And that was the very end of that experience with the Mini Mustang. So, but it was a great memory to have, and it's a fun story to tell. But so from that point, it led me to look on eBay and see if I could find myself a Mini Mustang. So I can attach some photos in the video here. And this was the car that I bought back then, and it was so old school and so left unloved. And well, it might have been loved at the track, but yeah, it had just been the exact state it was as it came off the track, and that's pretty much what I got it. So it wasn't rebuilt or cleaned up, and it was just so retro and so cool, and I just thought it was the coolest thing out. So, and that ended up being this car here. So, you know, it had a blue body back then, but then I bought a reproduction body from, I don't know, maybe it was Team Blue Groove, and obviously I've gone with the red scheme, and did some cool mods to it. Ended up making a saddle pack setup so I could run saddle pack lipos rather than having the stick pack through the chassis. And I've even made these custom bumpers here because the original bumpers were terrible. They used to just snap, you know, just directly under the very corner of where the car would land off a jump. It would wear, and in no time flat, it seems these bumpers would just snap off. So I decided to have a friend machine me up some of these templates, and I managed to get them on all these cars. So Alex's car, oh, did I just say that? So anyhow, this car here is going to be for Alex, and the reason why I have this and the reason why it is going to Alex is that a few months ago I had said to Alex, look, if you were to sell every nut and bolt of all your PB cars and parts, like what would you want to get? And we ummed and ahed for a little while, and then you know what, he said, look, you just come up with a number. So I came up with a number. He said okay to that number, and we made an agreement, and basically I bought up every car and every part, and I'm not going to say any of it was in mint condition. And there was no brand new shelfers there, but you know, there was a lot of potential for what was there. So I'm going to apply, I'll put some photos in here and you can see exactly what's going on. But there was enough there, I thought, that I could clean up all those bits and pieces. So I went to quite a lot of trouble. I literally polished up every single ball stud, the hinge pins, the links, even the steel diff out drives were polished. And unfortunately, there was a number of those steel out drives which had snapped part of the out drive off, because the steel out drive has a M2 screw that runs through one side and into the other, and on the receiving side those bits were just ready to snap off, and I've actually broken a few myself. So in amongst those parts I got, there were some broken pieces, and the way I've gotten around that in the past is I've actually had a friend put them in a lathe and drill them out and tap an M3 thread into the receiving side, and it's just a good solution for that problem. So you've gone away from having this really weak M2 screw section and this tiny bit of metal that actually receives that M2 thread, and I've gotten away with it, and we've paired that section off, drilled and tapped an M3 thread through, and now I can run an M3 screw right through it, and it certainly has strengthened up those diffs a lot. So I don't think we'll ever have another problem ever again. Anyhow, so back to the purchase from Alex, and look, Alex is the kind of guy, he will be, if there was ever a good deal to be done, Alex will be the guy who comes off on the worst side of it every single time. And he's just a really kind, generous guy, and he's a funny guy. We've had a lot of good conversations. We've done a lot of trades over many, many years, and you know, we tend to look after each other in that regard. So if I've got something he needs, you know, I don't mind sending it to him, and vice versa. And I think I've always been, or try to be, as fair as I can with Alex. But Alex, back in the day, so back in the 80s, Alex had bought a new in-box Mini Mustang Eco. Now, the Mini Mustang Eco came with a completely different body set. It didn't come with bearings. I think it was just basically a cheaper version of selling the basic car. But he somehow ended up with the correct body, and he somehow ended up with the bearings in the kit. So maybe someone messed up with the kits, who knows. Anyhow, he built up that kit, and he painted it a lot like this. And basically, many years later, I don't know what he did with that car. So he bought it for $99 from, I did actually have some details here. Where did he buy it from? So he bought it from Eastern Hobbies. So that must be a place down in Melbourne. And back then, he even built his own ESC for it, which was a XENON 9. So I don't know enough about that ESC, but I'm pretty sure I saw articles maybe in Dirt and Track back in the day, and that was you got sent the circuit board, and you must have had to solder in all the components yourself. Now, I bet you that was a big ESC, because it wouldn't have been tiny back then, I'm sure. If anyone knows more about it, please comment in the comment section about it, and maybe we can even look that up for later on. But back to the story with Alex. So unbeknownst to Alex, I felt like I got a really good deal with those parts. And yes, they required a lot of work, but I love a good project. And I'm sure many people have seen some of these projects I've taken on in the past. And I tend to just gather up all the bits and pieces I can. I'll clean things, I'll polish parts, I'll recondition these cars back to as best as I can get them. And this car is an example of that situation there. So unbeknownst to Alex, I had in mind that he would get back a Mini Mustang from those cars and parts. And this is exactly that car. So this is not a video about, oh wow, Jason's such a hero, he's such a nice guy, he's just giving stuff away. No, it's not a case of that. I really value my friendship with Alex, and he's been very good to me over a very long period of time, and it would probably break my heart to know that he would never have a Mini Mustang ever again, and certainly not like the one he used to have, and certainly not a really nice one. And for me, this car represents the car that he used to have, and I'm going to attach some photos of the car that he had back then. And what he did last year was he came to the Vintage Bash 1.0, and he even painted this body to sort of replicate the one he had back in the 80s. And he ran gold Super Shot reels on it back in the day, and he must have had, actually I'm not sure what tyres he had on it, but anyhow. So I sourced a set of these 2.2-inch JC Racing Super Shot wheels, and I put on some modern rubber, and I spent quite a bit of time getting this car ready for Alex, because last year he had some technical issues with, I think it was a lay shaft, and the pulley on the top lay shaft, maybe the grub screw wasn't tightened down on the flat properly, but it ended up spinning and something went wrong, and it really ruined his experience. So I've taken it upon myself to build him up the very best car I can from the bits that I had. Used bits, so it's not a brand new car, but this car is definitely going to go out there and it's definitely going to work. So I've fitted up a Tamiya Technigold motor, because that was the motor that he ran back in the day, and I thought, well, let's gear it up correctly. So I had a chat with my good friend Richard, and I said, hey mate, what sort of ratio or FDRs do you want on this car for this motor? So we ended up going about 9-to-1, which is a 52 tooth 32 pitch spur gear. 54 tooth spur gear, and a 15 tooth pinion. I think that brings us very close. So the idea is that I can literally take this car, walk up to Alex, and look, I don't have a very special radio with it, but he can switch it on. It's 2.4. There's a switch on the back here, and he's going to be good to go. So, the idea was that this is going to be a no hassle situation for Alex. I can hand his car over to him, and he can drive it without any fuss and no hassle. So I hope to get some video of this car going around out the racetrack, and hopefully he's wearing a big smile and he really enjoys the experience. So yeah, there's no stone left unturned with this car. So yeah, the steel diff outdrives have been strengthened. We've got a bore race belt tensioner up here tensioning the belt, and I pre-drilled every part of the chassis that accepted one of those wood screws, and I tapped it with an M3 tap, and I've put full stainless steel hex drive hardware into it. Whether or not you can make any of those nice stainless bits. We've also got rid of the plastic drive shafts, and we've got a set of Team Race Prep, I'm pretty sure they are Team Race Prep alloy dog bones. And yeah, so I've put some slightly heavier coils on it, and every metal piece on this car has been polished. All the shock shafts, everything that's steel got polished, and aluminium. So I believe this car is going to not let him down at all. It's also got the skid plate at the back, obviously, and that's going to prevent him coming down on a hard landing. It doesn't have any one-ways in the front, so it's solid drive front and rear. Yeah, so this car, I think, is going to work really, really well. And so Vintage Bash 2.0, the people who turn up to this thing should see this car going around in the Jurassic class. And I just think this is a really cool thing to do for Alex, because I really want to see him have some fun with it, and no doubt people want to see some Mini Mustangs going around, and this will be another one. And now that I've got his going, I'm thinking, geez, I've probably got a bit of time I could get mine going as well. So maybe we'll have a couple of Mini Mustangs going around down there. I know Chris Schoenfish, he's got a 2-speed Mini Mustang that he got from me. He has that with him. Maybe he'll get that going, I'm not sure. I might even take some extra PV parts down with me, and if he has any dramas, I can help him keep the thing going around. Maybe we can gear it up with a single speed, I'm not sure. But I might take down some bits to help him out as well. And I'm sure there may be others who turn up with PB cars. So last year there was a PB Eco there. Now I'm not sure if that was running around, but yeah, they had a PB Eco at the track. And yeah, so that is what's going on with this PB Mini Mustang. So yeah, I do want to do a much more in-depth build video, which I will, and I've already started filming and editing that, and it's going to be breaking down every last component and showing how they all go together. So for anyone who doesn't know how Mini Mustang works or goes together, I do have some footage there that I'm putting together, and when I get some more time after the bash, I will sit down and do something properly, and yeah, we'll get to see more of it. But anyway, so this is my PB Mini Mustang video. I've got my Mini Mustang 4-wheel drive. I've got the 2-wheel drive that came from the parts from Alex, and that's going to be a bit of a battle between me and Richard. He is building up a 2-wheel drive Shoemaker Cat, and so I've got the 2-wheel drive Mini Mustang. So 2 British cars from the about mid to late 80s, and we're going to put them head to head and see which one comes out the top. So anyway, that's a story for later on, and always many things to come. So anyway, this is the end of the video. Alex, I hope you really enjoy this car. It's been a real pleasure. You know, the friendship's been great, and I really appreciate you know, all the fun stuff that's been going back and forward for a very long time, and I really hope you enjoy having a Mini Mustang again, and this thing does not let you down, or me. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in and checking it out, and I hope to come back with some more interesting videos very soon. Okay, thanks very much, guys. Bye.